I mean, you could see it as a double-edged sword, sure. I mean, it's definitely challenging to, rein in a player like Jiizuke or rein in a player like Huni. But I think if you're trying to do that, maybe you're already doing something wrong. A lot of what coaching is trying to empower your players to do what they do best. And if I'm not empowering Jiizuke to do what he does best, then why do I have a player like Jiizuke on my team?
This is Zento from Esports Heaven, and I have here with me Artemis from Evil Geniuses. So let me just ask, how was your off season in terms of like LCS and getting everything ready and whatnot?
It was challenging for sure. I think that with COVID and the pandemic and Santa Monica being pretty much under lockdown, I'm not alone in that, but it definitely wasn't fun. I was missing LCS for sure, and I'm happy to be back to work. That's the big thing. But yeah, off-season preparations for me, I was spending a lot of time with listening to podcasts and reading just like medium pieces or blog pieces from educators and leaders around the world who were struggling with kind of the same stuff that I was struggling with, which was how do you really lead remotely? We transitioned remote like right before playoffs and like at the back half of the split where everything like needs to happen, and we definitely felt the effects of, or we felt the loss of the office. We felt the loss of the in-person aspect of a team. So for me, a lot of the work I was doing in the off season is trying to educate myself and learn from other people who are faced with the same challenges.
So you guys have had some big changes, specifically with, you've had Huni on your team previously, because what you were with Clutch Gaming beforehand.
Correct. I was with Clutch Gaming, LCS, and Summer Split. I got promoted to their roster when they were in ninth place, and then by the end of the split, we finished in third place and went to Worlds. And yeah, I went to Worlds with Huni, and it was a good time.
Word. So what makes Huni a great player in your eyes?
A lot of things. Huni I think he's a fantastic player, and he's one of the most valuable top laners in the league. A lot of people who have never played with Huni before, who have never coached Huni before, aren't going to know his value, and they won't really know what he brings to the team. But so much of what makes Huni a good player is his intangibles and things that you'll never see on broadcast. For one, he's an amazing in-game leader. He is extremely effective communicator. He comes up with very, very good ideas, and he sees the game at a very high level. I think that everybody's wrong sometimes, but Huni is very often correct. And he's not afraid to ask for resources when necessary. He's not afraid to be directive when necessary to push the team along, and that's really valuable when it comes to an in-game leader. At the same time, he is also a leader in review. He's not afraid to say how he thinks the game should be played. He's not afraid to give his teammates criticism if he feels that they're doing something wrong. And here at EG, we value candid or being candid very highly. We really value honesty like that. So he was like a natural fit into our system. He's somebody that works very effectively both in LCS and Academy, and we're very happy to have him here.
So I think the big question everyone probably has is, but also with the caveat of the import rule and, swapping out Bang and whatnot, how do you balance two crazy players like Huni and Jiizuke in one team?
I mean, you could see it as a double-edged sword, sure. I mean, it's definitely challenging to, rein in a player like Jiizuke or rein in a player like Huni. But I think if you're trying to do that, maybe you're already doing something wrong. A lot of what coaching is trying to empower your players to do what they do best. And if I'm not empowering Jiizuke to do what he does best, then why do I have a player like Jiizuke on my team? So I'm not really trying to rein in Jiizuke, but what I am trying to do is I'm trying to connect him to the bigger picture, right? I'm trying to connect him to the team's strategic direction, trying to connect him with the direction that the coaches feel the team should take, and connect him to his teammates' perspectives as well, and make sure that he understands everything clearly and he understands his job within our system. And that's the same approach I take for Huni, and it's the same approach I take for any player. And regardless of the pedigree or the experience of the player, or they all have a certain amount of like inertia where they're resistant to change, as everybody is. And one of the first steps is you just have to kind of break that down and build trust and get to the point where they're comfortable articulating their perspective and they're comfortable really like diving deep with you, and then seeing the disagreement clearly. And once you can both articulate your position and both you're understanding each other, that's when you can strive for compromise. And so much of League of Legends right now in Season 10 is about compromise. It's not about a sort of objective best strategy. We see, very, very distinct different strategies, whether it's by region or whether it's by team. So for us, it's about creating a strategic direction that we feel the players will excel in and then asking them to execute.
Hmm. So, how will the dynamic work, I guess, with all these imports on EG? Are you just, you know, are you having people play an academy, or like what's the entire situation, I guess?
Sure. So we have two packages. We have the Huni Definitely package and we have the Bang and Kumo package. Naturally, with import restrictions, we can't just sub Huni into the LCS team. I mean, there's not even a reason that we'd want to do that anyway, because Kumo is a fantastic piece of the puzzle.
Hmm.
So for us, it's about figuring out the best way to utilize this 7-man roster. And it was, a lot of work in the offseason went into this. I think that in the past, we've seen teams really try and fail to use active subs in their roster.
Hmm.
The classic example is TSM, where things weren't really communicated very clearly with their junglers,
Yep.
and
Yep.
players. At least I'm just saying from the players' perspective, they felt that things weren't communicated clearly, as self-reported, and there was externalities associated with their moves. So for me, I spent so much time working with our general manager in the offseason and making sure that we had a system in place where we could have proactive, open channels of communication with all 7 players and be candid with them and be honest with them and make sure that they all understood exactly where they stood in relation to each other and also in relation to like the larger picture and the strategic direction of the team.
Hmm.
And with that, I'm happy to say that we've had a very successful start to practice. We have been using all 7 players in practice, and I'm excited to bring a little bit of flavor to the LCS in summer.
Legit, legit. Okay. I mean, as a little side tangent, what are your thoughts on the import rule in general?
Uh, Interesting. I mean, I think that it's a very nuanced topic, and I don't think that I have enough time to really unpack exactly how I feel about it. But I think
Hmm.
that I think the obvious counterpoint to the import rule would be something like the Major League Soccer or even like the NHL. Like these are both like I guess you could say like American based or like USA based. The NHL less now, but both of these sports teams like have imports, especially the MLS, right? Like probably the weakest players are the American players, and the strongest players are the imports.
Hmm.
And what we've seen is the imports are elevating the play, and it's a twofold effect, right? You have the imports coming in elevating the play, but you also have the development leagues and the development structures at the youth level in U.S. soccer starting now to start feeding some real talent that can then go and learn from these exceptional imports who have been playing abroad. So. You could argue that the import rule is protecting NA players, but you could also argue that the import rule is harming NA players. And I think that reasonable minds could absolutely disagree on this topic.
Hmm.
I will say that the emerging region amendment to the rule was a fantastic amendment. I think that our mid laner in Academy, Giyu, he fits under that umbrella, and that's the reason that we're able to use Huni and Giyu in Academy is because of this emerging region rule. So we were very, very happy, or at least I was very, very happy to see this change, and we absolutely
Hmm.
capitalized on it right away.
Cool. Well, it sounds like you guys had a fantastic off season. In terms of, I guess, let's just get your predictions for top three teams.
Predictions for top 3 teams. Evil Geniuses, Cloud9, and TSM or Team Liquid. I think that I'm not sure it could go either way.
Uh huh.
As far as TSM, we have to see if their personalities are going to click, and frankly, if they have the infrastructure to support those personalities. I have questions of whether or not the support staff there is going to be able to handle those players and actually are going to be able to set the strategic direction of that
Hmm.
team. So most likely, that team will live and die by the player leaders and not by the support staff.
Hmm.
And then Team Liquid, I think they have a tall task of figuring out what their identity is. I think that their biggest struggle in Spring Split is they didn't really have a cohesive team identity. I think that was at least my interpretation watching from the outside.
Yeah.
And Tactile is he's a phenomenal individual player. He's a talent, absolutely. So if they can figure out a way to get the 5 of these players clicking and working together, then I think they have a real chance to be that third team.
Word. All right. Well, this has been Artemis from Evil Geniuses and Azento from Esports Heaven. Thank you.